So Martin O'Neill, you're no stranger to me for sure.
A Lurgan spade.
Lurgan spade through and through, but I encountered you first. I actually went and trained with yourself and Lawrence Lavery in Brownlow for about 2 days.
God help
It
you.
was too tough, so I quit.
Okay.
One of those ones. So it was full contact. I thought at that time I was about 19, but that you had a good group of guys there. Martin, that's part of your background. What are you doing at the moment with the Jeet Kune?
Well, Jeet Kune, I brought Jeet Kune to Ireland, I suppose you could say, in the late 80s. And I have a school in Clonard Youth Club, which has been going for 30-something years. And currently I teach a small group of adults and older teens, and a really enthusiastic group of children from 5 years up to about 10, 12 years, called the Little Dragons. And they're the most enthusiastic bunch that you could ever meet. The adults are not so enthusiastic at times. Kids just lap it up. And with the COVID thing going on at the minute, it's just been really tough.
Yeah.
And I've been getting lots of messages, so we just enrolled them last week, and we're going to start our first class on Wednesday, and we've had to put a lot of health and safety and trying to keep everybody safe at the moment with the coronavirus. So it's knocked everybody for six. The virus has, because our stuff, along with your martial art and so on, Martin, would be hands-on. You got to have the hands-on. You got to feel the contact. You got to feel the energy to know what the other person's doing.
Yeah.
And it's all distance, and whilst there is a long-range skill sets, it's not the same. But we're having to adapt and overcome, as the Marines would say. Yeah. So we adapt and overcome. So that's the way we're working.
Do you mind if I ask you about the connection with Bruce Lee? I mean, when I was growing up, I had all the films of Bruce Lee coming out. I know they were in the movies. Maybe it wasn't real life. I can understand that. But what was your connection with his philosophy through his teachers?
Yes. His main teacher, the only formal teacher Bruce Lee ever had, was called Grandmaster Ip Man. And there's been, I think there's 4 movies now about Grandmaster Ip Man. Certainly the first one's a brilliant movie. I mean, they're all pretty good. So that was, Bruce was sent to him when I think he was about 13 or 14 years of age, because he was a very unruly young boy. His family were quite wealthy apparently, and paid Grandmaster Ip Man to teach Bruce, to try to calm him down a bit. Bruce loved to fight. He loved, and then Ip Man encouraged the students to go and find out for themselves if the system of Wing Chun worked. He said, if you don't believe me if it works, go out there and find out. And there were a lot of rooftop challenge matches went on in Hong Kong at that time between various kung fu schools to see who was the best. So Bruce got involved in that quite a bit. So he had 2 teachers. Grandmaster Ip Man delegated two teachers to teach Bruce. One was named Wong Xiong Lung and William Chung. And Wong Xiong Lung was possibly the best fighter in the Wing Chun clan at the time, and he took Bruce under his wing and got Bruce fighting even more, but was teaching him at the same time. So eventually, I think in Hong Kong, it was a British colony at that time, and things became too hot, and Bruce was going to be arrested. The police started, trying to find out more about Bruce, and Bruce was actually born in San Francisco, but his family moved back to Hong Kong. His dad was in the Chinese opera or Chinese theatre. So he had citizenship, American citizenship, so his dad shipped him out of Hong Kong before he got arrested, and the rest is history. He ended up in San Francisco very quickly, and then he moved to Seattle. And when he moved to Seattle, after a short time, he met with my instructor, Taki Kamoura. And Taki Kamoura, I think Bruce was about 18 or 19 at the time, and Taki was 38 when he met Bruce. And Taki had been interned in the internment camp because he was Japanese American, and they arrested all the Japanese Americans and put them in internment camps after Pearl Harbor. So Taki was in there on the day that Taki was going to get his high school diploma, he was arrested.
Oh.
He never got his high school diploma until he was about 75. He was brought back into the school and they gave him his high school diploma.
Dear, dear.
So he said he was broken. When he met Bruce, he was absolutely broken man. He just was devastated. That was his words to me. He says, "Martin, I was devastated." He felt so low, and he said he used to go into a cafe or a diner in Seattle, and he was ignored. Nobody would serve him. He said he used to sit for maybe an hour and a half, and to get the courage to walk out, because they wouldn't serve him because he was Japanese.
Seriously?
Yeah. So he faced all that racism.
Yeah.
And you know, when he met Bruce looked at him and went, you know, after a while, Bruce said to him, "Kamoura, get yourself together. You're dressing like an old man. Come on." He took him and got him some more modern clothes. "Come on, buck yourself up, stand up, come on." And he got his confidence back, and he said that Bruce really, really helped him. And Taki has spent his whole life paying that back to Bruce. He's the keeper of Bruce's grave, or he was before. He's very ill now. His son's now the keeper of Bruce's grave in Seattle in Lakeview Cemetery. If you ever get over to Lakeview Cemetery, Bruce and his son Brandon, who died tragically on a film set of The Crow, he's there. And I had the honour of going and paying my respects there some years ago with Taki. But such a wonderful man. And you know, I met Taki at Bruce's grave. That's how I met him, about 25 years ago, 20 something years ago. And he started talking to me, and that's how I met him at Bruce's grave.
Real.
It's kind of phenomenal. Like you kind of go,
Yeah.
you know, is there anything? Is there something about a coincidence? Does coincidence exist?
Meant to happen.
So
all very interesting, Martin.
yeah. So that's Taki, and then the other person who Bruce taught when Bruce moved from Seattle to Los Angeles is Guru Inosanto, who's my other instructor. Guru Inosanto is possibly the most highly decorated martial artist in the world. He's got multiple black belts in multiple systems. He spent his whole life studying martial arts. That's his thing. He's unbelievable qualifications, but he wouldn't tell you he has them. I've had to get this information from his students.
Yeah.
He doesn't talk about it. He just wants to train and teach. That's his thing. He was a high school teacher, and that's his thing, and an educationalist. So I've been taught by some people who were street fighters, who really had no time for philosophy, who think that philosophy is just bunk. And I've been taught by people who really see the value in the martial and the art. So I'm currently also studying with Sifu Tom Lamont, who's a top Wing Chun instructor in Northern Ireland, because I wanted to look deeper into the roots of Jeet Kune to see what made it work. Yeah, so I'm currently studying with Tom. So I'm trying to, you know, I suppose you could say that, I think you as well, Martin, lifelong students.
Yes.
You know, I think when you think you, martial arts is a funny thing. When you think you've got it, it's slippery. It's like an eel.
Yeah.
When you think you've got it,
yeah,
it's gone. And when you think your ego needs to be kept in check, because there are a lot of guys who, you know, big belt, big belly, big attitude, big ego, don't train, but give a lot of orders.
Oh.
Sort of the dictatorship kind of model.
Yes.
And you get that in all walks of life.
Yeah, no, of course you do.
You know, I've worked for a few people who had that model as well in terms of their management style.
Or the Japanese thing, the Chinese thing, the movies brought a lot of to us in the early 70s with Bruce Lee and stuff. You know, do you go back to it? You've been there. What's it like? Martin has talked about the culture. How did you find it?
I've never been to Japan. I studied Japanese martial arts. I'm a black belt in karate. I stopped doing karate and got my black belt in 1980 and did a bit of karate after that, but then really started to try to find out about Jeet Kune. That's what I was aiming towards, and I didn't know how to get it.
Why was that?
It wasn't here, it wasn't in Ireland, and it was very limited in Great Britain as well, so I found a couple of instructors, well, Liam MacDonald who was an instructor up in Kilrea, brought over two brothers, the Kraus brothers, who were students under Dan Inosanto, under Guri Dan at that time, who were instructors under him. That was my introduction, and I became their student for about 6 years. I did an apprentice instructor program with them, and then I moved on, and I then met, I wrote to an American instructor called Sifu Lamar Davis, and Lamar Davis is what you would call martial arts a tank. He's just fighter, like a street fighter, and makes no bones about it. But a very good-hearted Christian kind of a man. So I went and studied with Lamar for about 10 years, and got my full instructorship under him in 2004. 2004, I think 2002, something like that. And then I had met with Taki Kamoura, and I was studying with him as well at the same time. And then I eventually met with Guri Dan Inosanto. Went to a seminar in Italy about 8 years ago, and asked at the seminar could I join his instructor program. So he called me out. Guri Dan tests everybody every day. All his instructors are always continually. He just does it. It's not like you do one test. Every day is a test. It's like you were saying, every day is a test. So everybody gets called up and they do their thing in front of them. So he had me doing some stuff in front of him to see if I was eligible to go on the program. So I managed to get through that. It was totally nerve-wracking because there was about 50 instructors standing like this here looking at me, and it racked my head, but I got through it anyway, and did my apprenticeship with Guru Dan, and I'm now an associate instructor on his program. But still, associate instructors, like you've got, you're at a low level of, well, as an instructor it's not that high, but for me it's an achievement. For others it might not be. But
the thing I love about the Japanese way is they don't say I'm up here and I've made it. They go down and they raise the people up, and that's the Japanese way. And I think the Chinese way, from what I get from Bruce Lee, his way was the same way.
Very much. I mean, he once famously said that a belt or a black belt was only useful for holding your trousers up.
Very controversial.
He says he didn't believe in belts.
Yeah,
he was just really, really radical. He said he didn't believe in belts or systems or styles. He believed in total freedom of combat and freedom of thought, and dedicated his life to freeing people up from all their hang-ups that they had.
Did he cause controversy, Martin, when he taught the West? He came into America, he started to teach that. Was that controversial in his culture?
To some extent it was, but and he, because of the race, one of the things that I admired about him, and one of the things that the Americans got from speaking to me, the guys who came over and did the documentary, was I looked at Bruce as a role model for, when somebody hated him, he didn't hate them back. When somebody treated him racially, he didn't hate them for it. And when somebody put him down or put an obstacle in his way, he used the Zen thing, and he didn't try to beat his way through the obstacle. He went around it. And the old analogy of the water running down the river, hitting the rock, it might wear the rock away eventually, but the water goes round the rock usually, but it's wearing it down bit by bit. Yeah. So that's the thing that got me about Bruce, was the sectarianism that was here and still exists under the surface here, and the hatred and the mistrust between communities here. Mm-hmm. He showed me a way of overcoming that. And that's probably one of the biggest things that he's ever done for me, was how to combat racism, sectarianism and hatred through martial arts, through embracing a little bit of suffering, through the training, a little bit of sweat, the odd bit of blood, because it's combat sport, and the odd bump and bruise, but using that as a way of defeating the ego that we have, because I think the worst thing that we can have is an overinflated ego. We have to keep our ego in check. And you were saying about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I started the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in Lurgan about 10 years ago, and I had to give it up because of injuries. about 5 years ago. I just, a lot of bad injuries.
Because it's all groundwork.
Well, I just got to the stage where, you know, I had some health problems and I just I couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, unless you're very high level, will find you out, because you're fighting on the ground with a young, athletic 18-year-old. You might as well be trying to play football against a Premier League, you know, Roy Keane in his pomp in the Premier League. He'd just eat you for breakfast and devastate you, absolutely devastate you. And it was taking me days and days, maybe a week to recover from a hard training session. And it was, you know, and I just had to go, Martin, too many birthdays, kid.
Get on your feet.
Yeah, I'll just stay on my feet and I'll do my stand-up. And you know yourself that, you know, you can do a lot through stand-up. We do our boxing, our kicking, our forms from the Wing Chun system. And then Cali has weaponry from A to Z. In Cali, you're first class, they'll hand you a stick, and they'll hand you, they work from, whereas most martial arts work from empty hand to weaponry, Cali works the opposite way. It works from weaponry to empty hand. So it's really fascinating. They're teaching you, and Guri Dan is you know, fantastic at Cali, and poetry in motion. When you see something, it's like, you know yourself. You see people doing it and you go,
Beautiful art.
that looks like ballet, it looks like dancing, it's
elegant.
so elegant.
Yeah.
And it looks like he's not doing anything.
Yeah.
So natural.
Yeah. And you're throwing people around and it looks like you're not, you know.
But people see that and they think it's fake.
Yeah,
You know,
but it's
because
not.
yeah.
It's not about how could you guys help kids' mental health through what you do and what Martin does?
I do it all the time. I've been doing it for years, helping people. People come to me for all sorts of reasons. Usually a lack of confidence, that they think that they need to learn to defend themselves. In reality, the chances of somebody attacking you in the street are very rare. Hardly anybody's dangerous, hardly anybody. So it's about building confidence, honouring yourself, about building your own self-respect, about respecting others, but we don't have to respect everybody. Not everybody deserves respect. Not everybody. Respect, in my opinion, has to be earned. Yeah, there's a lot of very disrespectful people out there. You know, if they don't respect me, why should I respect them? I will, to a certain extent. I'll be mannerly towards them, and I want to share the love of martial arts with them. But sometimes if they've got the wrong attitude coming to me, and I've stopped people, I've put people out of my class, I've stopped people coming into my class because they had the wrong attitude. They wanted to learn to hurt people. It was apparent to me that's what they wanted to do. So for me, it's about, martial arts for me is about love. It's about a deep love for humanity. And it's about, for me, it's giving something back, and I want to give that back. And I constantly do that. But I need to be refreshed and go to the well with my instructors to help me as well, because I think it can exhaust you. We can end up sick, and I don't know if you've been there, but we can end up sick because people drain, the energy vampires drain you and leave you drained.
How do you mean?
I mean, just people who just constantly want to take from you, emotionally, physically, even financially, use you. And some people are like that. Most people aren't, but they do appear occasionally. The people that I'm teaching at the minute are fantastic people. Really, really, I don't know, there's something about, you know, the way you teach or the attitude that we have, it draws good people towards you. So I haven't had a bully incident in my club for many years.
You do put up with
one or two wee incidents among the kids, but that goes on because they're still trying to find their way. So we have to do referee occasionally with some of the things that go on. But martial arts is, for me, it's teaching. I love teaching that kids class, probably more than anything, because you can see them. They're like wee sponges. They want to learn, and what we're teaching them is not to hurt each other, not to hurt anybody, to help their mums and dads at home, to be respectful, to have respect in their hearts, and to be loving, and to give that love back into our community. And I think that's what I stand for.